And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to switch to English. For everybody who's watching us online, please vote the most interesting pitch, the one with the self-massage. must have been one of the most popular. So you gotta vote this, and after the mentoring session, we're going to have a live interview with the one who had that pitch. Okay? Now the moment that everybody and his mother is waiting right now, it's about Steve. I will be very brief. I met Steve in 2009 in a city called Las Vegas. And I will introduce Steve with a very short story that I had when I went to get my visa for the United States, because I bought the ticket to the workshop. I bought the airplane ticket, but I realized with like 3 weeks before the event that I didn't have a visa. I didn't a US visa. Then I went to the embassy with a pack of files, and then it was this guy that looks like the guy from the Uncle Tom Hut, a black guy, gray hair, and he looked at me and he said, "Where are you going, mister?" "I'm going to Las Vegas." "And what are you going to do in Las Vegas?" "Sir, I'm going to a personal development workshop." And he looked at me once, and he looked at me twice, and he said, "Sir, precisely, how much personal development are you going to get in Vegas?" This is a true story, I swear. And I said, "As much as I can, sir, as much as I can." Bam, visa in 1 second. I got my visa in like 2 seconds because I said, as much personal development I can. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve.
Thank you, Dragos. It's so fun to be here in Romania. It's a very welcoming country, I've been finding. In fact, even the mosquitoes have been welcoming me quite a lot here. So today I want to talk to you about fulfillment and this idea of running a business that really fulfills you across multiple dimensions. Not just a business that pays your bills, makes you some money, but something that really aligns with your heart and spirit as well. And I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years now. I started my first business in 1994, writing and selling computer games. And it was something I was really passionate about in my early 20s, and it was kind of fun to work on that kind of business. But when I started out as an entrepreneur, I had no idea what I was doing in business. I was absolutely clueless as to how to actually make money. And so I started with a good sum of money, and I basically just turned it into debt, and more debt over 5 years. So I had a negative cash flow for 5 years straight, and ended up bankrupt. And I realized, okay, I'm obviously doing something wrong here. I was working really hard, sometimes even sleeping at the office, putting in long hours. And there were some aspects of the business I really liked. I liked the creative, flow of creating new computer games, but I just wasn't getting many products released, and I had no clue how to make money doing that. And so I kept going with that business, and I just changed my mindset. I changed my attitude as to, like reevaluating, what am I doing wrong? What is my focus here? Because I figured, okay, there's a way to make this work. I'm responsible for what I'm doing, but I'm screwing it up. And so I figured out what I was doing wrong, as ironic as it seems, is I was trying to make money. And that turned out to be the biggest mistake I ever made, is running a business trying to make money. That was my main focus, trying to make it a success, trying to create a hit product, trying to make a name for myself in the industry. And that just backfired. The more I did that, the more I attracted the worst business partners, the most dishonest publishers, incompetent partners to work with, people who took advantage of me, a frivolous lawsuit, and just had no clue as to how to make money. And then I shifted my focus after a while, because I was getting kicked out of my apartment because I couldn't pay the rent. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I walked down to the beach. I was sitting there looking at the ocean and thinking, okay, I'm not going to have a place to live pretty soon. I'm thinking, okay, how can I make this business work? What am I doing wrong here? Because I was really passionate about the type of work. And I realized it was just this huge focus on money that was holding me back. And it wasn't fulfilling me. I had to admit to myself, I wasn't really enjoying running the business. And I think that's why after a while I was starting to check out from it. And I'd find myself procrastinating more and more, and just not wanting to go to the office each day. I sometimes dread getting up and going to work. Even though I was still pushing myself and trying to work harder and harder, I was just creating more and more stress. And I wasn't enjoying the life I was living anymore. And so I decided to turn things upside down. And I said, let's just forget about trying to make money here. Let's just assume we're always going to be broke. And what would we want to do with what would I want to do with my life? Let's say I'm always going to be broke and I'm never going to make any money from this. Then what would I do? And so I let go of all that pressure I was putting on myself to try to make money. And the irony is that by changing the focus to just doing what I loved and having fun and making a contribution, trying to make a difference in the world, and not even worrying about the money for a while, and just doing the bare minimum financially I needed to get by, then the whole business turned around. And that was in 1999, and every year since then, I've had a positive cash flow in business. First with the games business for 5 more years, it worked out great. And then I decided to shut down that business and get into personal development, and that worked great. And the most money I've ever had to spend, go into debt on my personal development business was $9 to register my domain name. Everything else after that came out of the profits from the business. But the funny thing is, I was not actually trying to make money from it. I was just trying to create a lifestyle and a life that I really enjoyed, and to create, fun experiences and contribution to share with the world. And then as I got into that flow, I found that I really enjoyed running the business more. I really loved what I was doing. And the money came later. It came almost effortlessly. Like, this book here I've had published in Romanian, and it was originally in English. I never submitted a book to a publisher. I had a book deal before I even wrote a book. Hay House came to me and said, hey, we at Hay House are familiar with your blog, and if you'd like a book deal, let us know and we'll do one with you. I hadn't written a book yet, and I already had a book deal, never having to submit it to any publisher. And then they got it translated into Romanian by licensing it to a Romanian publisher. I didn't do anything to make that happen. And the interesting thing is that I found there's really 4 aspects to our relationship with our work or our business. You can think of it as body, mind, heart, and spirit. So the body level is kind of the lowest level. It's like how does your business or your work handle your physical needs? Like, does it bring in enough to pay your bills? And for some people, this is like what they think the whole purpose of being in business is make as much money as possible, create security for yourself, take care of your finances and so on. And that was my original thinking in business too. Is like, the reason you start a business is to make money, right? It's to take care of all your physical and financial needs. That's the body level. Now that is important, but that's only one part out of 4. And it's not even necessarily the most important part. That part tends to take care of itself if you get really good alignment with the other 3 areas. So the second area is the alignment with the mind, the mental aspect of how you connect with your business. And this is how good a match your business is for your talents and your skills. How well are you doing work that challenges you, that really pushes you to think smarter and to grow stronger mentally. What is it about the business? What is it about the work you're doing that really brings out and the best of your talents and skills and makes you develop new skills that you never even thought about developing? For instance, with me, I didn't necessarily think I was going to be a writer, but I decided to develop that skill over time. I didn't think I was going to be a speaker, but I decided to develop that skill over time, and the business helped to bring that out of me. And then I found that, hey, I can get good at this. And when you have a skill that you're able to express through your business that you actually get good at, it makes the business so much more enjoyable to run, and it's really a good alignment. And so one of the risks you want to avoid is getting into a business where it doesn't challenge you. It doesn't keep pushing you mentally. It doesn't keep pushing you to develop new skills. For instance, just to get comfortable with speaking, I was in Toastmasters for 6 or 7 years, from 2004 to 2010, because before then I'd be like, shaking to be up in front of an audience or just very, very nervous. And now it's just as comfortable for me as having a conversation. But that was alignment of skill that the business helped to bring out of me over time, because I wanted to get into speaking. I wanted to learn to communicate better with people. The third aspect is the alignment in your business with your heart or your emotions, your feelings. Do you love the work you do? And this is a place where we can often get ourselves stuck. We end up creating a business that we end up hating, or we just check out from it emotionally, or it creates more stress for us. And this I found to be one of the most important aspects, if not the most important of the 4, is getting that heart alignment in my business so that I really loved the work I was doing. And that's one of the reasons I transitioned from doing computer game development into personal development. I found that as I was running my computer games business and it was very stressful, I would go home and I'd read personal development books, or I'd talk to people about personal growth, or I'd go to personal growth seminars or listen to audiobooks. That was becoming my passion, even though it was just a side hobby. But I did it because I loved it. I did it because it was fun and because I enjoyed it. I didn't need to be paid to do that. And I, over a period of years, ended up reading about 1,000 personal development books just because I enjoyed that so much. And after a while, I realized, I love this so much, maybe I should try to find a way to turn that into my work. And I just leaked that out a little bit on the side over 5 years by writing articles to help other people, and I found that I really enjoyed that. And that's what transitioned me into blogging. I originally was writing articles to help out other game developers to improve their businesses. And then I found that I enjoyed that work so much, it really got me into that heart alignment. And even now, when I live my lifestyle, it's the heart alignment with my business that really comes first. It's making sure that I'm still in love with the work I do and that I'm passionate about it. Traveling has become a big part of my business because I can do that, living that digital nomad lifestyle. I came here to Romania just because I received an invitation from my friend Zan and wanted to come and explore. And then I can, write articles and use the inspiration I get here from having new growth experiences to fuel the work I do and to share that with other people. But when I ran my first computer games business, that heart alignment was not there enough. I mean, I liked games, but I didn't really like the work I was doing or the partners I was working with. And so now I have the standard in business. If I don't really love the business partners I work with, I don't work with them. If I feel like I talk to somebody and they want to do business together, even seems like a lot of money could change hands, but I feel there's kind of a coldness in our relationship together, then forget it. And even in my life, I'll go around and I love hugging people wherever I go. It didn't used to be that way. It's something I learned, like, hey, if this is my lifestyle, why don't I create it the way I want it to be? Put more fun in my life. So, when you greet me, don't do the handshake thing. Just come up and hug me. Okay, I'm very receptive to that. In fact, when I would do workshops in Las Vegas, I didn't do it at the first one, but I learned over time it was actually much better to hug everyone when they would show up to the workshops. So I had all my staff do that too. So when people would come to my workshops, they'd get 5 or 6 hugs before they even got to their seat. And I found it really changed the energy of the room, and it made it more fun for me speaking. So I enjoyed it more. I wasn't getting that cold reception from people in the morning, if that makes sense. So this is a really important aspect, getting that heart aspect in your business. And Carlos Castaneda wrote that by the time a man discovers he's taken the path without a heart, the path is ready to kill him. And I think that's really true. When we realize we're on that heartless path, that's the point where the stress and the pressure is built up so much, and we're hating life, we're hating our work, and we're checking out. And that's when we go and do, Facebooking for 5 hours instead of actually going to work, or playing video games, or just, finding some excuse to do anything else but actually our work. And the fourth aspect is the spirit, is that spirit alignment. And for this, it means different people. But what does it mean to do work that you consider spiritual? To me, it means to make a contribution, to leave a legacy, to have an impact in the world. And, the heart and spirit aspects especially, I've seen that they've become much more important to me in business over time than that body aspect, than, just covering my expenses or meeting my needs financially. And I find that the more I align the business with doing what I love and sort of expressing my spirit and putting more of my spirit into the world. Like, going around and wherever I'm in an environment, try to make it a more huggy place, bringing out more positive feelings in people. Contributing. I realized years ago I didn't even need to own the copyrights on my work anymore. So in 2010, I took all the blog posts I wrote, over 1,000 articles, all the podcasts I recorded, all the videos I did, anything I posted on social media, and I just donated all of it to the public domain. I said, I don't even own it anymore. Everybody else on the earth owns it just as much as I do. And I told people, do with it as you will. And I had one book published from Hay House, which is, the Romanian version of it is here. But what happened is, because I gave people permission to use the content, they could turn it around and sell it and not pay me any money for it if they wanted to. I went from being an author of one book to being an author or co-author of over 50 books. Like, if I search on my name on Amazon, I see I have all these different books written, and some are in French and German and Spanish. I even have a children's book. But I didn't write those. I mean, I wrote the content for it, but somebody else went and created that. And it's because what really excites me about my business is the ripples it creates in the world. When I started blogging, I thought I was starting late. I started in 2004, and there were already 8 million blogs at the time. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm getting this blogging thing really late. There's already millions of bloggers out there. Little did I know that within a few years, there would be hundreds of millions of bloggers. And that's been, I think, the most exciting part of the business to see, is these spiritual ripples, like the ripples of other people waking up and wanting to live a more fulfilling lifestyle, and then them going on and inspiring other people. And interestingly, after all these years, the most popular article on my site is called 10 Reasons You Should Never Get a Job. It's basically just about kind of waking up from this idea of, do you really want to spend your whole life doing uninspired work in a cubicle for some faceless corporation that you don't even align with their mission, you know, and you know, having a job is not really a problem. The problem is when you're out of alignment with the work you're doing, when you don't love it, when you're not excited to get out of bed each day and go do what you're doing. You know, for me, this is, you know, I'm here partly for fun and partly for work. I've got enough alignment there where now work is play and play is work. And that's a really beautiful place to be because it makes your business sustainable. And after a while, you get so much enjoyment from the heart and spirit aspects of your work that the money ceases to matter. You know, you can give away lots and lots and lots of value, and it just comes back to you. And you realize that a lot of the value is not, you know, you don't need to hold your wealth in terms of dollars or you know, or money. You can hold your wealth in terms of goodwill that you create in the world. You know, like I can you know, travel to Europe for free. This is my 3rd free trip to Europe in the past 12 months because I keep getting invited to speak here. And so then I get a free, you know, free airfare, free place to stay. And even though I'm not getting paid to do that, that's like value that I receive. And so it's, in a way, it's kind of like income that my business creates. You know, I have a free place to stay here with my friend Zan, and hey, I even got free coffee for coming by here. And so you kind of realize that, you know, you don't have to focus so much on like, what do I need to get out of this? Like make money, make money, make money. If you focus really on like keeping yourself happy in that high vibration of just loving the work you do and waking up each day excited to do something, and you know, really get your spirit aligned with your work too, feeling you're making a contribution, feeling you're giving to people, that really simplifies things. And sometimes, you know, I too get caught up in the money and I go, oh, this exciting business deal, and I'll do this and it'll make me all kinds of money. And that's when I stop enjoying the business as much and things start crashing and it doesn't quite work as well. And then I remember just to go make it simple and focus again on, okay, how can I just contribute? How can I help someone? So then I'll just kind of like get back in my heart and in that spirit alignment with the work I do and think, okay, let me just answer an email for somebody and just help them out. Somebody's having a problem, let me just help them. And I find that really motivates me. Or I'll just think, how can I just write a simple article, you know, that will help somebody out there in the world, even if most people won't like it. How can I make some kind of positive difference? And whenever I do that, it elevates my mood. It makes me more excited to run the business again. And in the end, it creates income. And the funny thing is, like, income comes to me. You know, people would come to me with business deals and ideas. I didn't even have to do that part. Income. It comes in, you know, rather than something you have to go out and grab and take. And that's what's made the business very, very sustainable, and it's kept me going for a number of years. Is ironic as it seems, not actually trying to make money, but instead focusing on doing what I love, and then through that feeling of happiness, contributing. Because now you're contributing from a very motivated place, and you've taken the neediness out of your business. You know, where now no longer do you need anything from anyone else. You're already happy and fulfilled where you are, even before the money comes, and then the money is just sort of a gravy on top. Does that make sense? So that's the message I wanted to share, is really focus on getting that heart and spirit alignment in your work, especially the longer you go in business, the more it matters. Oh, I've only got double time. That's great.
You just got 8 minutes for free. You talked for 16 minutes. Okay. Thank you very much, Steve. And questions? Okay, now we're going to do like this. You, Steve, you're going to pick the one that no. Okay. The people that you are asking you a question, you pick them and you keep interacting with them. Okay.
Okay. Let's go right here. Yeah. Right. The whole time I've been running my blogging business, I've had 0 employees. I have no payroll. Yeah. So I'm the only employee of the business, but I've had a number of people help me out, and I'm actually going through a process now of thinking about how I want to build a staff to help, but at the same time keeping that alignment with the heart and spirit. So I really love what I do. I don't want to build a huge enterprise that becomes a big burden where I end up hating going to work each day. But I would love to work with more heart and spirit aligned people who, you know, are inspired to do this type of work as well. And so one of the things I announced on my blog a little while ago is I'm interested in hiring a workshop coordinator so I can do more workshops in different cities around the world. I've done 9 workshops, all of them in Las Vegas, but I'd love to do them in more cities. So yeah. So do I want to do a workshop here? It might be fun to do that. Yeah. Okay. It's a possibility.
How many of you would attend a workshop of Steve Pavlina? Okay.
I got set up for that, didn't I? Hard selling, yes. Ambush like the mosquitoes. Yeah, I see. Okay. Octavian?
Steve, I know that in the last 4 years you've been experiencing with the open relationship.
Yeah.
How this affected your business, or it has a big impact on your business, but how can anyone benefit from this even though they don't have a business primarily focused on personal development?
How can anyone benefit from open relationships in business?
No, they don't have a business primarily focused on the personal development.
Okay.
Your business is personal development. So
Right.
it helps you a lot.
Right.
How can anyone in another business, but it's not focused on personal development,
How can they benefit from what?
from being in experiencing in open relationships?
Oh, how open relationships can help you in business? I don't know. Are you going to be a pimp or something? Okay, well, yeah, I've been in I was, just to give you a little context, I was in a monogamous, continuous relationship for 15 years, married for 11 years. That relationship was 1994 to 2009. And my ex-wife and I basically just grew apart. Our relationship didn't end with a really, big angry bang or anything like that. It was more of just sort of fizzled out. We just grew in different directions. For instance, my ex-wife hates to travel. And so that became kind of a tough thing to do if you really like to travel and you wanted to travel sometimes with a relationship partner and your partner is opposed to that. It was just a compatibility issue. So after that, I really got into this exploration of open relationships and not wanting to have kind of an exclusive connection, but to still be able to have relationships that were very fulfilling. And I talked about the body, mind, heart, spirit model as it applies to business. That same model applies to relationships. So in every relationship, you have 4 dimensions to it. You have your body connection with a person, like anything involving touch, cuddling, kissing, all the way up to sex. You have your mind connection. How do you communicate with each other mentally? What are you sharing in terms of ideas, your thoughts? You have the heart connection. How are you connected emotionally? What feelings are you sharing with your partner? And whether you're in love or not. And then you have the spirit, which is how you and your partner help each other grow. And the interesting thing is that in all human relationships, we have all 4 of those dimensions present, but we don't have to get them all from one person. And so I realized, a really fulfilling relationship life means it's rich in all 4 of those areas. Whatever you want in each of those areas. So you have the greatest physical connection. So if you want sex, you've got the greatest sex. Okay, you have the most stimulating mental conversations in your life, and people who really keep you awake and aware mentally, and they're always giving you fresh ideas to consider. You have wonderful heart-centered, loving relationships. Really good emotional, deep, intimate connections with people there, and you have a sense of spiritual connectedness in your relationships, people who inspire you and uplift you and challenge you to grow in different ways and really express who you are with the world. So, that's one of the connections between open relationships and business, is that you have that body, mind, heart, spirit alignment. You have it with your business and you have it with relationship life too. So you can get fulfillment in some of those areas, from your business or from your relationships or both. But ultimately, I feel it's strongest if you can get them from your relationships. It's been said that 80% of our happiness in life comes from our relationships. Yet a lot of us try to get all that happiness out of our business, and that gives us maybe just that 20%, the extra. But when our relationships are really grounded and fulfilling and we feel really happy there, then that's when we feel more motivated about life in general. We feel more excited, we feel more turned on, and then we have all this passion and extra energy to flow into our businesses. So, as far as like how writing about open relationships affected my blog, there's a lot of people who said, oh, you're gonna ruin your business, nobody's gonna follow you. But the reason I started my business back in 2004 is that I wanted a business that I would never outgrow. I deliberately wanted to start a business that would be about my own path of personal growth, so that whatever I was into each year, that could be what the business was about. That way I'd never lose that heart and spirit alignment with the business, because the business is basically about my path of exploration through life and how I grow and the lessons I learn along the way. And then the value provided is me being very honest and very candid about sharing what I've learned on this path. And I just found that some people, resonate with that, to the tune of about 2.5 million visitors a month reading the website. So obviously there was a following. And I found that my loyalty ultimately has to be to that path. It can't be to, constraining my message if because I'm afraid of other people's reactions. And I thought about that, and I realized if I run that kind of business, I'm going to end up hating it. I'm going to end up having this split personality where I'm one person in public and then I'm a different person in private. So years ago, I made that commitment to myself that when I do this business, I'm going to go all in, and it's going to be about my real, honest, true path of growth, even if it seems to go down an unpopular path. The funny thing is that I found out that those fears were unwarranted. That the more I wrote honestly, the more I would get feedback from people that said, I don't agree with everything you say, but I appreciate your honesty. And I respect that you're not lying to us, you're not trying to trick us, that even if I'm not into some of the things you're into, I appreciate your willingness to communicate with me on that level and treat me as like a real person and not, just turn everything into a product pitch. And so I found that even the critics, they still gave me a certain degree of respect for having that honesty. And the funny thing is that the more I wrote about those topics, often the traffic would spike because it was not what people expected to see. And so they would share it more and write about it more, even if it was controversial. So even critics on their own blogs, they'd write about, oh, Steve Pavlina's become this total narcissist and he's going down this open relationship path and he just wants sex and so on. And then they would link to my blog and send me more traffic in so doing. So I said, yeah, keep doing that. So yeah, the criticism actually helps traffic-wise, But I learned, on the one hand, you don't want to write just what people want to hear. But on the other hand, I'm not interested in writing stuff just to jerk people around and, just to try to get controversy going. To me, it's just writing what's honest. And I feel that sometimes that's controversial and sometimes it's not. Okay? Okay, right here. Am I writing what? Masculine or feminine copy? What does that mean?
Well, apparently you may write like you said, maybe directly to man.
So you mean like kind of yin yang type of?
Apparently there are two styles. I mean, you can write more soft for relationship because I listen to your heart connection and all that. So if you look to your audience, which you write more for women, for men, or you don't?
The way I usually write is I write an article as if I'm writing for just one person. Because even though I have a big audience, and even when I'm speaking here today, I look out of the room and I see dozens of people. But I know that you are hearing it as if I'm just talking to you. It's a one-on-one conversation. So just as I speak, I try to speak like it's a conversation I'm having with one friend. So I'm just talking to you, and there's no one else here. Because if you think you're like talking to a group, it's very different. So you kind of, you use your energy in a very awkward way, like you're announcing things to a crowd instead of really connecting with people individually. So when I write, I kind of think of who am I writing this article for? A lot of times I'm writing for myself. I'm like trying to get clarity about my own thoughts and I'm journaling. So I don't think as if I'm writing for men or for women per se. I mean, maybe if I'm writing an article specifically for men, then I'll think of, imagine a man in my life. Yeah, a persona, it may be somebody I actually know. Like I think, okay, I know this person's having this problem, so I'll write an article just for them, and then I publish it to everybody. And I find that when I do that, if you write deeply enough, you touch something that's not just in that one person, but in a lot of people. Sure. Okay, yes. Okay, that's a great question. So the question is, how have my values shifted from when I went from being a computer game developer to being a blogger? And it's definitely something that gradually started shifting over time. It started back in my games business, and I'd say the real value shift there was moving from just being a very head-centered person, very logical guy, very left-brain guy, to getting more into my heart and to connecting with people more. And that started into my games business, kind of just this waking up process from reading a lot of personal development books and going to workshops and having experiences that I would just never have in the game development field. Like if I went to a game developers conference, nobody there hugs. It's like you're around a bunch of very tech-oriented mental people. People don't talk to each other very much. It takes a lot for this kind of people to open up. It's a very male-dominated field, and what happened though is over time I started feeling more of an obligation to my customers. I found that I had this relationship with my customers in my business, and that's where it began. And I started having these fans of my games, and they would send me, like these children who were playing my games would send me their own artwork. So they'd run like Windows Paint or something, and they make these little art images, and then they'd email it to me. And I'd eventually put up a fan art page on my website of all this children's art that they created inspired by the game characters I developed. And I thought that's really cool, and it kind of got me more of a connection with the customers. And as I started getting more connected with my customers and seeing them as real people rather than just numbers or dollar signs for sales that were coming in over the internet, I began feeling more responsible to them. And like, what kind of games am I putting out? And I started with these action arcade games, and then gradually developed, started moving more towards puzzle games. And I thought, I want to contribute more through these games, not just entertain people, not just waste their time, but maybe give them a mental challenge, something that will make them a little sharper. So my games became more like chess puzzles, in that type of mindset, wanting to challenge people more mentally. And then I started, wanting to help out other developers. So as the connections with the people in the field, I started speaking at game developers conferences and shareware industry conferences and software events. And when I would connect with the people there in person, it really changed the way I felt about my work. Because I realized, okay, there's real human beings behind this. It's not just numbers there. There's a community of software developers. It's not just some handle you're connecting with over a forum on the internet. There's a real human being behind it, and they have their own values and their goals. And I became more attached to the people there and wanted to help them in different ways. And so that's what ultimately got me into blogging, is wanting to make more of a contribution, starting out with just helping some friends. And then, more as I got more feedback from my blog, that became even more of a big deal, and just doing more speaking. It was kind of this gradual unfolding process over time. That's one of the reasons I've really made a point of integrating speaking into my work. Even though I do a lot of it for free, it's not really a big income source for my business. I find it's very important to have that face-to-face contact with people that I connect with. Otherwise, you can get really cold, like sitting at your laptop at home all the time, and you're just writing stuff, and it's all the communications over the internet or through Facebook or whatever, and you feel kind of this distance. But when you see people face to face and you can, hug them and talk to them, it really grounds you in that human connection more. And so that's, I'd say, how things have shifted over time, is just that openness of feeling more emotional connectedness to the people that I work with. Okay, 2 more questions. I know I'm giving very long answers, but I like to be detailed. I do the long form blogging. I don't write the short posts. Okay, right here.
I do it this way. Make way. And now the reason, well, I speak loud enough. Okay. Basically, your life story has been my life story, and although lately I had come to realize basically the same thing, the way you explained the whole thing and the way you expressed the whole thing, like kind of made everything make sense, and thank you. And my question would be, where were you 10 years ago?
Where am I 10 years ago?
No, where were you 10 years ago?
Where was I 10 years ago? Living in Los Angeles?
There you have it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
A question.
A question? A question. A question. Right here. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh. You have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great. See how easy it is?
My question is, how would the personal development help you to increase creativity in your life and your business?
Yeah, so the question is, how did personal development, working on personal development, help you increase creativity in your life? I think one of the things is it got the blocks out of the way to expressing my creativity. I think we're very naturally creative as children. And then we get in the school system and it teaches us to be, clones, and drones and not be very creative. So I think we have that natural ability to be really creative. I'd say the real big turning point for me where I really opened up to be more creative in my life was in 1999 when I was, going bankrupt and I was broke and I went down to the beach. And I was getting kicked out of my apartment at the time. And I asked myself a very interesting question. I said, suppose, I reminded myself, okay, you've been working for 5 years trying to make money, and you just failed utterly. You just lost money year after year. So that's obviously not working. So then I thought, what if I never figure out this money thing? What if I never got it? And I asked myself the question, could you live a happy and fulfilling life even if you never had much money? Like even if you never figured out the financial part of your life or your business or your work. Like if I was always broke, always in debt, the rest of my life until I died, could I actually still enjoy my life? Or was that automatically sentencing me to misery? Just because some computer in a database somewhere, some computer database had a negative sign in front of my net worth, and all this debt I had. And like, does that one little, horizontal line segment, does that automatically mean that I have to be unhappy and that I can't be very creative? Because creativity, I think, flows out of us when we're happy. So my first priority was like, can I actually be happy and fulfilled? And I thought about that, question a lot while I was sitting there for a few hours just on the beach, and I realized, this is a beautiful day. I'm here in Santa Monica. There's children playing. There's seagulls flying overhead. There's a cool ocean breeze, bright and sunny, day. And here I am stressed and worried about money. And I thought, did I have to do that? Is that absolutely necessary? Is that what my life has to be about? And I thought, no, the answer is really I can have a happy and fulfilled life. Even with no money, I can work on my relationships. I can still hug people. I can, sleep on the beach if I needed to. And I noticed there are homeless people sleeping on the beach, and they seem to be okay. In Celsius, in Los Angeles beach where I was at, the average high temperature in the summer is 22 degrees. The average high in the winter is about 17, 18 degrees. So, very narrow temperature band. You can just live outside the whole time. I thought I could go to libraries and read all the great books of the world. I could travel by hitchhiking if I had to. And I came up with this list of all these great things I could do without even needing any money. And when I realized that no matter what happened in my financial life, no matter how broke I was or how much in debt, I could still love my life, that's when my creativity really snapped into high gear. Because then I said, there's no more excuses. I don't have to use the lack of money as an excuse for not being creative. And so I went on to create a new game, and I had no money. And I had to do it with a $0 budget, and I found people to help me out to create it, people to do the music and the artwork and so on. And the project just became a labor of love. I couldn't spend any money to develop it, but it went on to win Sharer Game of the Year 2 years in a row. And it got all these, it got some industry awards. It got great reviews because the reviewers said, hey, this is a highly creative game. It's different. And so the funny thing is I realized that, when you really align with your heart and you just do work because you love it, that's where your creative flow really starts coming out of you. And then you feel comfortable taking more risks and going with your inspiration. And you can tune into that voice of inspiration so much more easily when you're happy. And you don't need money to get happy first. If you get happy first, then you'll find that the money and the abundance comes more easily.
Okay,
sure.
Thank you, Steve. Please be here. The mentoring part of the event is gamified too. So the game master, we're gonna give a prize to the person that sits closer to him, because during the question session, he was on and on, trying to get closer to the person that asked the question, and the person that has been stopped nearby has to receive a prize. So let's see what the prize is. Paul Ardelano gets the prize, and the book is called? The book is called Toamna, the autumn, fall. It's something that starts right now. Steve, thanks a lot for being here. And now we're going... yes, you're going to get the prizes right now to the people. And after that, we're going to have the interview. And you can continue to talk to Steve because there will be a networking session. And that I can easily see this translating into a hugging session. Yeah? Okay. So the mic is yours for the prizes.
Okay. Can you hand me the books? Okay. So our first one, let's give to Octavian.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. And our second one for our last question about creativity. And our third and final one for a question about values over here. Thank you. Thank you.
There's one more thing.
Yes.
The publishing house that had your book is offering a discount of 30% for the code SP09 to all the books that you can buy from them. I will pass this on to everybody to write it down. So basically the publishing house is offering your book too at a discount price to all the people.
Everybody's book.
Yes, so, and everybody's book. So once again, thank you, Steve. Okay. Have a seat. Right now, acum vreau să aflu care este pitch-ul care a câștigat. Alexandra Roata a câștigat și o să avem un interviu. So, pentru cei care se uită live la noi, o să întrerupem un pic stream-ul aproximativ 7 minute și 33 de secunde, după care ne întoarcem pentru un interviu pe canapeaua respectivă, ceilalți networking play.